Back to the all gas no brakes thing though.
Yeah.
So it was really fun making it. And then we started all gas no brakes in September of 2019. 6 months later, the country shuts down and everything just hits the fan. I was actually here in Austin when it shut down. I was on 6th Street. I remember I don't just hang out on 6th Street all the time, but I was just here.
You do. Come on. Let's just be honest.
I do like 6th Street.
Yeah.
I like East Austin better, but I like 6th Street too. So anyways, the NBA shuts down. Everything's shutting down. So I went down to the Dirty Six and I asked this doorman, I was like, are you guys ever going to shut down? He was like, fuck no, bro. The Dirty Six never closes. And I was like, all right, we'll see about that. Next day, plywood. And then I was like, all right, I thought my career was over when COVID hit. I was like, what are we going to do? Nothing's happening anymore. There's no more parties or Talladega races or Burning Mans to go to. So I went back to Seattle in the RV and I just spent 4 months just depressed, living in the RV, trying to figure out what would happen.
But all gas, no brakes went on still.
Well,
that.
This was the crazy thing about that period of time is that when COVID hit, I'm sure you remember, everything turned political.
Yeah.
Overnight. In Seattle, if you went to a house party, you can get canceled, because people were like, oh, you're a super spreader. So if you wanted to socialize, even with a group of 4 or more, you had to do so with your phones damn near turned off. And a lot of people were doing hyper social policing at that time. Beyond that, in the South and in more conservative places, they were doing the opposite. They were trying to prove that they could hang out 500 deep with no mask to make a statement against the establishment.
Yeah.
So you had this polarization that led to more division. And that's when the anti-vax protests started. And I went to Sacramento and the passion was unreal. This is about 2 months after the COVID lockdowns began. And that was my first political video, was at the California State Capitol in Sacramento, documenting they called it the Freedom Rally, but that's typically like anti-vax stuff. And it was real intensity. And that video was my most successful to date at that time. And so I was like, okay, am I a political reporter now? Am I covering politics? Like, what's going on?
What were the interviews that made up that video? What style of questions were you asking? What?
I don't know if you remember, but I was actually scared when the pandemic started. I thought that this is something that might kill us all based upon what I was consuming. And so I'd ask people, what do you think about this lockdown? And I've had people say, I'm immune compromised. If I get exposed to COVID, I have a 95% fatality rate. But guess what? I'd rather be free and dead than alive living in fear. And I was like, wow. So it was just stuff along those lines. You had some San Diego surfers there complaining about the beaches being shut down when such awesome waves were coming.
Yeah, it's interesting how that really brought out the worst in people.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure why that is. Fear, maybe. Paranoia. I don't know. It really divided people. Like along the lines as you mentioned. Like triple mask yourself or fight for your country.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like, why are those the 2 options? That is literally what it was.
Yeah, it's wild.
And both groups think they're fighting for the survival of something.
Yeah.
And so that's where you really run into problems when you have 2 polarized groups who both think that their cause is for the common good. Mutual understanding is impossible at that juncture. And so after 3 months of almost everybody being locked down, George Floyd happens. And I remember I saw the 3rd precinct burning on my phone in Minneapolis. And everyone says, Andrew, you have to go cover this. And I'm somebody, like I said, police violence has been close to my heart since I was a kid. And my first thought is, I can't do that. I'm a comedic reporter. I can't go to Minneapolis and cover this. It'll be the end of my career. And I had a friend named Lacey who I went to college with. And she told me, she was like, bro, this is your chance for you to do something serious. You can actually create a meaningful piece of reporting like you always wanted to before Quarter Confessions. And you can turn All Gas No Brakes into a news source. So I called Reed, who was the CEO of the company that owned All Gas No Brakes. And I was like, look, man, I want to go to Minneapolis. I was in Orlando at the time. I was actually at the Sausage Castle. And he said,
Sorry, the Sausage Castle?
Yeah, the Juggalo mansion.
Oh, right. That
Yeah.
was called the Sausage Castle.
So I'm watching
Right.
Minneapolis unfold on Lake Street where it was burning, and I got to the Orlando airport, and I booked a flight I booked it on my own card. I didn't consult my boss or anything, and I was sitting in my seat on the flight, and he straight up told me, he's like, if you fuck this up and this destroys the brand, we're getting a different host. If you mess this up and you turn our show away from a party show about drinking and drugs and all that stuff, and you make this a social justice show, you're done. But I was like, I just turned my phone off. I got to the Minneapolis airport on the second night of the riots. And when I got to the airport, there was National Guardsmen in the airport, and it was like a Call of Duty mission, and the one in the airport. And on the speaker, they say, if you're arriving here right now, you are not permitted to go anywhere outside of the airport. National Guardsmen will escort you to your Uber or to your car. They're going to take a picture of your ID. They're going to figure out where you're going. You are not permitted to go outside tonight. And so Lacey picks me up. There's two people in the back, two of her homegirls wearing like shiesty masks. And I'm like, what are we doing? Where are we going? And she goes, we're going to go film the riot. We're going to Lake Street. And so we drive down there. Kmart is burning. Target is burning. Everything is on fire. She has the Sony A7. She gives me a microphone and she's like, go talk to that guy. And that was a guy with a Molotov cocktail in his hand who had just burned Kmart down. And so I go, what should I ask him? She goes, what's on your mind? So I walk up to him and I'm like, what's on your mind? He said something like, everything that was happening here was supposed to happen. This is how we feel. Is it right? No. Is this going to benefit the community? No. But this is how we feel.
This is how we feel. That's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
That's through a lot of the documenting that you do. This is how we feel is like screaming through that.
Yeah. And I noticed that aside from a group called Unicorn Riot, there was no one else actually interviewing the protesters. The local news was on the bridge, 5 blocks away, filming just the scene itself, just the fire. But I saw some crazy things off camera too. So there was kind of two groups there. There was like the anarchists, more mobilized protesters. And then there was just mostly African-American community members who were just pissed, who had nothing to do with the organized resistance. And they were all kind of joining forces to riot. And there was this anarchist kid who ran up to White Castle with like a Molotov cocktail. And he was about to throw it at White Castle, and this black dude ran up to him and grabbed his arm, and he's like, we fuck with White Castle. And I was like, what? And so you see, if you go on Lake Street, every business is burned.
Yeah.
White Castle remains. I also saw these dudes rip this ATM out of a bank and hit it with sledgehammers. They were a group of friends hitting it with sledgehammers, right? They're hitting it with sledgehammers. Boom. All of a sudden, money starts spraying out of the ATM. Like, I've never seen some shit like this, like pouring out of it. And then these group of friends who were just united and getting it open start fighting each other for the money as it's flying out of it. And so it was like Joker from the Batman's army type vibes. But I got shot in the ass by the National Guard. It was no good.
Like a what? A rubber bullet?
Yeah. Yeah. Not shot.
Feel like?
Honestly, it hurt. Yeah. It hurt.
I'm not sure what I was expecting as an answer to that question.
Yeah, but
I liked it. It was good.
Yeah. And then after that, I posted the video and it was very well received. And that was the pivotal point where I realized that everything was going to change.
I mean, there was still kind of a comedic element to the way you do conversations, or the way you edit. So did you see yourself as a potentially like a Jon Stewart type of character?
At first, but I just think human beings are just funny in general.
Yeah, the absurdity of it.
Cool thing about Jon Stewart is like, I generally like to say that anybody who works for corporate media, whether it be Comedy Central or anything owned by Time Warner, Fox, MSNBC, they can't say what they want because in order to climb up in those organizations, you have to appease the narrative of the company that you're working for to rise in the ranks. Jon Stewart, I feel like, has so much clout in the media world that I'm pretty sure he can say whatever he wants. Like, I actually don't think that Jon Stewart is controlled by anybody. I really don't. I think that he can go on his show and talk about whatever.
I do think that certain people have broken the brains of COVID broke the brains of a lot of really great people I admire Trump broke the brains of a lot of people I admire, like to where Trump derangement syndrome became a thing. Like you can't see the world quite as clearly because of it. And I think Jon Stewart is quite a genius at like stepping away, even though the world needed him in that time, stepping away during that moment of Trump and coming back now, sort of being able to reflect, being the sort of the elder statesman.
My favorite Jon Stewart moment that illustrates that perfectly is whenever he went on the Colbert show and he was just joking around with Stephen Colbert, who I think is a full-blown propagandist, about the Wuhan lab leak theory.
Mhm.
He was just goofing around. And he was like, it's called the coronavirus lab, and they had it before. And now what do we have? And it was like, you could see in Stephen Colbert that he was like gun to his head type shit, where he's like, John, stop joking about that.
Yeah.
And that made me realize, like, oh, everything that Jon Stewart did, especially for the 9/11 first responders, he's a true American. And not in the sense of like the different political parties want you to believe as an American. Not a do your part and social distance American. Not a, wave your Trump flag in the back of your pickup truck American. Just a guy who genuinely stands up for what's right.
There is a degree to which you can be in those positions easily captured by groupthink, though, even when you're not controlled by bosses and money and all that kind of stuff. And I think Jon Stewart has been mostly resistant, but it's hard. His position is difficult.
I think he's done the best job, though. If someone in that obviously Democrat-connected corporate media economy, he seems to be the freest talker.
Yeah. So this is when you first became famous.
I'm not even sure what fame means. I mean, I just see myself as me.
When did you get the shades?
Oh, that was on tour. That's a whole the shades, that's a dark time. Okay. But this I didn't make like
this is a meme, really. I don't even know if that's a symbol.
I didn't make journalism to like become famous.
Yeah.
I made it to give people a platform to share their stories. It just so happens that people liked it enough to where I became sort of famous. But if I could go back and not be the on-camera guy and just platform the stories, I would. But the reality is people need a face to attach to stuff they like. And so that's just how it is. But yeah, I would say right around Minneapolis protest, Portland protest, Proud Boys rally time, when I was really in there, is when I started to be acclaimed as more than just like a ambush meme lord.
Did that have effect on you, the fame?
Not at that point.
Not at that point. So like you were still able to have a lightness to you?
Well, the country was basically closed.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like there was a street to walk down where people were like, there's that guy. So getting famous during COVID made it so when the country reopened, it was as if like my life really changed, because I was like, oh, all these fans I made during COVID are like seeing me out at the bar. This is cool.
Yeah.
At first, fame is the best thing ever, because you can go anywhere in the country, and these spaces that you normally feel a bit insecure in, like a local dive bar, a cool restaurant, a coffee shop, where you just be another guy, all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, I'm a big fan. They give you like free stuff. You get this sense of acceptance that you never would have got before. So, but there's also
the dark side.
Well,
it's all love, man. I mean, just to speak to the first part you're saying, it's just so much love that people have, and they share.
It's amazing. I'm sure you know what it's like.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
The only downside of fame, really, is that you can't really be anonymous again, and you have to seek out more strange environments to be anonymous in. Like right now, I live in the desert, basically, and I want to live in the middle of nowhere in the Mojave Desert. Not because I'm scared of people, but because I just want to be like curious me again. Who people don't know, and I can ask questions to people that I'm interested in without them going, I remember I seen you here, or I seen you there. Mm-hmm. That's the main thing. That's what I loved about hitchhiking.
Yeah, just to have anonymity.
Yeah, it's the best. But both are great. Complaining about fame is just the lamest shit.
Yeah, we should go to furry conventions that you covered. Wear an outfit.
I love furries. I should do that.
Yeah, we should go together. I go all the time. We should go together. What's your favorite outfit?
I've been to a furry convention.
No, I have not.
I think you might like it more than you think.
Listen, maybe I'm just afraid to face who I really am.
Yeah, your persona, the true Lex, will come out when you're in a $3,600
everything is
lizard
possible.
suit.
Lizard? Is that what they go with?
Well, scalies are the lizard furries.
Yeah,
and there's a big division in the community where they think scalies are kind of douchebags, because the scaly suits are more expensive. They're about $7,000, whereas a fursuit is $3,600. So, and they're also taller.
Yeah.
So when the scalies pull up to the fur fest, it's like, fuck the reptiles.
Fuck the reptiles. I can get behind that. I I'm more like a teddy bear type of guy.
Yeah.
I think bears. Maybe squirrels. I don't know.
Oh, squirrels are
Like
so cool.
Giant squirrels. Yeah.
I want to put a GoPro on one and just see what the hell they do.
You were talking about that conversation with the guy at the head of Doing Things Media. How did that end up?
Well, I mean, I want to clear up a few things. Reed, the CEO of Doing Things, I actually think he's a good guy. I think that he was just trying to run a business. He saw what was working for his brand, which is very college-centric, very festival-centric. And he was right to think that journalism and especially coverage of sensitive topics like COVID or, police brutality would definitely not work on merch. You're not going to sell a picture of me interviewing someone at a riot like you would me interviewing a furry or a drunk dude in Alabama. It doesn't work the same. So it was a lot harder to monetize, not just because of YouTube censorship, but also just because of the sensitive nature of the content. So Reed was looking out for himself as a businessman. There was a different partner, who I'm not going to say his name, that was more connected in Hollywood. I think he's responsible for the collapse of the show.
What was the collapse like? What happened?
Right as the country's reopening, I get a DM from Eric Wareheim of Tim and Eric. And I'm covering something called the UFO Mega Conference in Laughlin, Nevada, which is a beautiful river town. And, he DMs me and says, let's make a show. And I'm like, oh shit, is this real? I grew up such a big fan of Nathan For You and the Eric Andre show. And those are produced by their company, Absolutely. So I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. 3 days later, I get a call that says, Jonah Hill wants to hop on board. And I can't believe this, I'm still in the RV and I'm in Laughlin, Nevada. So I'm like, Jonah Hill, super bad. Are you shitting me right now? Yeah. So I was excited. And, and Moneyball, Jonah Hill's a great actor.
Oh, he's great. He's great all around.
Yeah.
Doesn't get the credit he deserves. Well, I mean, he's got the credit by now, but still deserves more.
So basically, just within a week, I assembled this super team of Tim and Eric. And
super bad team?
Yeah, pretty much. Of Tim and Eric.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
That was good. And Jonah Hill. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we just pitched it around. Every single TV network rejected it. I don't know why. And they mainly did that because I was in this weird situation where I had signed a contract with Doing Things Media that I didn't realize was called a 360 deal. That's what they use in the rap world. Basically means that I can't do anything outside of them without them getting 100% of the money. So if I was to go work at Sbarro or Quiznos while I was working for All Gas No Breaks, they would get my $500 a week from the sandwich spot. Mm-hmm. I was unable to earn any outside income. I didn't read the fine print because I was 21 and, like I told you, $45K a year RV sounds sick.
Yeah.
And basically the TV networks were like, why would we buy a show if the digital brand's going to be running at the same time? Because they didn't want to stop doing All Gas No Breaks to make a TV show. They wanted All Gas No Breaks to continue as a web show while All Gas No Breaks as a future TV show at Showtime or Hulu or somewhere like that was also concurrently running, which is impossible for one man to do. And so every TV network said, okay, we're not doing that. We want an exclusive rights contract with this guy. Next, oh yeah, this is crazy to think about because it all happened so fast. So Jonah Hill says A24 Films wants to do a movie instead of a show, and they're going to let you keep the digital brand running. So this meant that I could keep doing my Instagram stuff with Doing Things Media / All Gas No Breaks while making an A24 movie with Jonah Hill and Tim and Eric. So it was just like, I was excited. It sounded perfect. So they said, okay, what do you want to make a movie about? And I told them, okay, here's what's going to happen in 2020. If Trump wins, there's going to be riots across the country. The major cities are going to burn down. If Trump loses, the militias and his loyal supporters are going to try to have a coup in DC. That's what I said. And I said, so I'm going to follow the lead up to whoever wins the election, and I'm going to document what happens after. So they said, okay. And so I was to begin filming in late October, during the campaign trail, maybe mid-October, up until November, and then in the following months to see what would happen. This meant that I couldn't film anything for All Gas No Breaks, the digital show, because I had to dedicate 100% of my time to making this perfect movie.
Yes.
Still, one of the partners at Doing Things Media was demanding that I not only produce the movie, but also more content for the show. And I told them, there's only so many hours in a day, man. That's going to be impossible. And I said, if you want it to be possible, I can make it work, but I want to have half of the monetization from the show, 50% profit split, which I thought is fair. If you want me to do double work when I was getting almost nothing before, split me in on the profits. They fired us immediately. Me and my 2 childhood friends who I hired to work on the show with me were all out of a job. As we were filming for the now HBO project, we got our fire notices.
The guts on that person because you should be owning probably close to 100% of it.
I think so too, but they didn't see it that way because they figured we made the initial investment. We discovered him is how they looked at it. So it wasn't Reed, but it was the other partner who wasn't Reed who said, we have tons of, verbatim, he said this, I have tons of connections in the comedy world. We can replace Andrew overnight. I'm not sure why he made that miscalculation. I wish he would have thought about it twice. I wish it didn't have to end like that, but it did.
Why do people do that? Like, what's the benefit of acting like that?
I think
you can part amicably without the drama.
I think all betrayal and anything like that is motivated by self-interest, whether that be economic success, social stability, whatever it is. They figured that because I was being such a burden and asking for the profit, that they could just release me and find someone equally talented and not split them in so they can make more money.
Oh, I see. Well, that's a stupid way to think.
People think like that, man. People who are, the word I use is like sidekick syndrome. Like when people are kind of a part of the production, but they're not integral, they start thinking that the front man doesn't matter or something, and that the brains of the operation are actually the people on the periphery. And so they start to believe that they can just shift things around and the audience won't care. Not realizing that I was actually the one who created the show and that the lore of the show is connected to my rise outside of their jurisdiction, if that makes sense. Like the people who watch All Gas, No Breaks watched Quarter Confessions and read the book. And so, you know.
Well, this happens also not just financially, but just with people that sort of part of a team, but they don't really contribute creatively to the team, and they force their opinion or pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it comes from like from editors or all that kind of stuff, or from sponsors, or there's pressure they create when the creator alone should be celebrated and have all the power because they're the ones that are creating the thing.
In a way, I have sympathy because I can't relate to that because I've always been the front man of my own projects by design. So I'm not sure what it's like to be like someone's owner from a content perspective. I don't understand the challenges they face. Maybe there was something that I didn't understand. I don't know.
True. Well, oftentimes if you own a thing like this company, you do think about brand.
Right.
And then maybe you have a big picture idea what brand means, and that can be at tension with the creative project, right?
Yeah.
Like, but ultimately freedom for the creator is the best kind of brand.
Yeah. I remember all 3 of us who worked on All Gas, No Breaks got fired at the same time. And we were in the RV that Tim and Eric's company bought for us, which was a bigger RV, in the parking lot of a Walmart in South Philly. And the propane had just ran out and it was 15 degrees outside. So like the RV was getting really cold really fast. And I just looked at my phone and it was like, you're fired. And I was just like, God help me. But I've had a couple moments like that, and God does help me.
And they were always in the parking lot of Walmart, right?
Well, yeah. Although
I know that Walmart, by the way.
The one in South Philly is great.
Yeah, that's great.
But technically now you can't park an RV there.
Well, you're not a man who follows the rules.
Well,
if you know what I'm saying.
The thing is, though, is Walmart, Cracker Barrel, and Big Five are supposed to technically all let RV campers park overnight. But if there's like a crime problem in the city where they're at, they can lobby. Individual Walmarts can lobby with the corporate to take that away. So like all the Portland Walmarts, you can't sleep there anymore. Any city with like significant homelessness and like petty property crime, the Walmarts are a no-go.